Hello, I am Sidney Hill. I am the Public Information Officer for New Mexico's Second Judicial District Court. And today we are having coffee with Judge Franchini, Judge Nancy Franchini, who is the presiding judge of the court's civil division. And so, Judge Franchini, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much for asking me. I'm happy to be here.
Great. So, when we open these coffee sessions with judges, we like to just kind of ask a question to help our audience get to know the judge a little bit. And so we ask one basic question, and the basic question is, before you were a judge, you were a practicing attorney. So tell us what drove your career choice to be an attorney, and also how did you decide what type of law you wanted to practice?
So what drove my career choice, I think, deep down was my dad. My dad was a lawyer and then a judge and then a justice. And so I was around the law my whole life. I heard about his cases both as a lawyer and as a judge and justice. And so it was just part of my growing up. And I think that's what led me to become a lawyer. In terms of how I practiced what kind of law, or how I decided what law to practice, for me anyway, I believe that I didn't choose the practice of law, which practice I was going to be in. I believe that was chosen for me by the job offer or offers that I got. I did know I did not want to do any kind of criminal work because I just didn't have it. It was something that it didn't necessarily click with me, but I did enjoy civil work. And so in that respect, I just chose I wanted to be on the civil side. And then in terms of who I went to work for, it depended on who offered me the job. And so that's the job I took.
Okay, great. Now, so you've been a judge for several years now, and as we mentioned earlier, you are the presiding judge of the court's civil division. So, can you tell our audience what it means to be a presiding judge, and if that role allows you to influence in any way how citizens interact with the court?
So one thing I could tell you is being a presiding judge is a lot of work. It's a lot more work than just being a judge. I don't just do my day job, which is cases. I actually have to work on the civil division and make sure it's running properly. And so I made a list of the things I do as the presiding judge. I oversee the civil staff attorneys. I oversee the Elder and Disability Initiative that deals with guardianship cases. I oversee the foreclosure settlement program, which obviously deals with foreclosures. I attend all of the presiding judges meetings once a month. I have my own civil judges meetings once a month. I deal with holiday coverage when it's Christmas or Thanksgiving to make sure that all of the civil judges have a meaningful break, but that we also have coverage during that time. And so that's generally what the presiding judge does for civil. Recently, we received an order from the Supreme Court wanting to know more information regarding civil cases, how many COVID trials we've had, how many bench dockets, trial dockets we have, those types of things. And so I'm the one who gathered all that information from all 10 civil judges and created a report and submitted it to our chief judge, Judge Ward, who then submitted it to the Supreme Court. So that's generally what I've been doing since October. And in terms of if it allows me to influence the interactions with the citizens, I personally, I don't think I've had any more interactions with the citizens of Albuquerque or Bernalillo County. The most of my interaction is in my cases when they come before me. But as the presiding judge, I don't believe I've had any more interactions with the presiding judge. I guess I'm more available if somebody needs to lodge a complaint. They usually will let you know, Sidney, and then you let me know and we deal with it. But that's been my experience.
Okay, thanks. So now, when we talk about civil court, that is the part of the court where people are most likely to come to court without an attorney, since there is no constitutional right to an attorney as there is in criminal cases. So is there anything that the court can do to make it easier for these folks, which we refer to as self-represented litigants, to navigate the system?
I believe that I am biased when I say this, but I truly believe that the Second Judicial District Court is the best when it comes to pro se, helping pro se parties. We have the outstanding self-help desk. We have forums that we provide to self-represented litigants. We promote pro bono clinics and legal fairs. We had the volunteer attorney pool that Judge Levy and Judge O'Connell have helped put together for the state of New Mexico. All of those things help pro se litigants. I do feel that forums are probably the best thing that we can provide to pro se litigants, because it just gives them a direction on how they ask the court to do something, whether it's by motion or have a hearing or whatever the case may be. It just gives them some more direction. But I do want to mention Asia Brooks, who's the head of our self-help division. And I think she does an outstanding job overseeing all of that. But again, I feel that our court does the best in the state.
Okay, thanks. So now, in addition to your work on the civil bench and as presiding judge of the civil division, you also have been involved greatly in the efforts to improve New Mexico's adult guardianship system. And I know that you are now chairing a committee that's continuing to look into ways to improve that system. So are there specific parts of that effort that you feel are major accomplishments?
Yes, let me first tell you the name of the committee. It's a Supreme Court committee that was created during the legislature last year, and it's called WINGS, the Working Interdisciplinary Network of Guardianship Stakeholders. I always have to look at the word WINGS to remember what each letter means, so I apologize for that. But WINGS has been in effect, we've only had 3 meetings since it's been in effect from last year. And in that short time, WINGS was instrumental in having a bill passed in the legislature. It passed during this last legislature in 2022. And last week, the governor signed this bill, which I think is outstanding, pretty good, since we've only had 3 meetings that we were able to get this done. And this specific bill is dealing with temporary guardianships. And an example of a temporary guardianship is that if you have a woman who, let's say, is 80 years old and she has her neighbor who has decided to kick her out of her house and basically empty her bank accounts and make sure that the 80-year-old doesn't go to the doctor, just is not doing anything to help her. A petitioner would file a case in front of us to have a temporary guardian appointed for the woman who's 80 years old. And under the current law, the person is appointed as a temporary guardian, and that person stays as temporary guardian up to 60 days before the court ever sees that protected person, the 80-year-old woman. And that's a long time for a person to not be in front of a judge to have their civil rights affected. So under the law that's going to go into effect on July 1st, when a petition for temporary guardianship or conservatorship is filed, the judge has to have a hearing within 10 business days of the filing of that petition. And the purpose of that is to get that person in front of the judge so they can see him eye to eye. The judge can evaluate immediately whether the person truly does need a temporary guardian or not. And then I just think it's a much better practice. Definitely decrease the amount of time that the person has to wait to become to be seen by a judge to determine if they need a guardianship at all at that point.
Okay, great. Yeah, that is quite a big deal, obviously. And so, having accomplished that, are there any other areas that you would like to see the committee address with regard to guardianships?
Yes, we've actually come up with a whole list of things to deal with. And fairly recently, I've decided to think of guardianship as a hydra, which is a 2-headed snake. And when you cut off one of the heads, 2 more heads grow. And so guardianship is going to take a lot of time to make better. And it will continue, I am sure of it, long after I'm gone, because it's such an important area of the law. And to answer your specific question, the one thing that I would like WINGS to take a look at is what happens when the protected person dies. A protected person is the person under guardianship or conservatorship. So now when a protected person dies, that's it. The guardianship is over. The guardian and conservator no longer have any say on anything. And the reason why that I think is a problem is this happens today, where you have a protected person who doesn't have any family, doesn't have any friends, their guardian is a corporate guardian, and the protected person dies. Now, all of a sudden, that guardian doesn't have any powers anymore. And what I mean by that is they don't even have the power to get the person buried. So you could have a protected person who has died, who is in OMI, Office of Medical Investigator, for months, which I just don't think is okay. I think that's horrible. I think that the law should be extended a little bit so that at least you can get the person buried and then maybe deal with selling any kind of assets and giving it to whoever the heirs would be or anything like that, just to wrap it up, wrap the guardianship up so that then the estate can go through probate or whatever else needs to happen next. But the fact that a protected person could go unburied for months, I just think is awful.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I guess there's a lot there when it comes to guardianship, obviously.
Yes, sir.
So let me ask just this question to get away from work and the law for a minute. So obviously your job as a judge is very time consuming and can be stressful. So what do you do to relieve stress, to get away from the pressures of the job?
So the thing I like to do the most is, well, I just love being outside. So when I'm outside, I like to ride my bike. I have a mountain bike that I like to ride either in the mountains or just around town. I like to do yoga. I used to do a lot of that before COVID hit. So I'm hoping eventually to get back to that once the restrictions lift up a little bit more. I love to hike. So on the weekends, especially with the weather getting warmer, I try to hike at least once every weekend. One thing that's maybe kind of surprising is in my job, what I do for a living is read. It's really what I tell people I do. I read all day, every day. But I love to read when I get home. So every night I read something, whether it's fiction or history. Those are my two things that I read up on, especially with fiction. It's nice to kind of get immersed in a book and go to a different place that's different than my surroundings. So that's what I like to do. And then finally, I love to cook. Whether it's a dinner or have a dinner party or just baking. I love to bake. Before COVID hit, I used to have a little gathering for the civil division where I would bake a whole bunch of stuff and we'd hang out, during the Christmas time, and maybe I'll be able to do that again once COVID lifts even more. But those are the things I enjoy doing.
All right. Well, great. So as we close out, let me just ask if there's anything else that you'd like to say, either about, your work, about the court, or anything of that nature. So I'll give you a chance to speak here.
Okay. I just want to thank all of the employees and judicial officers of the Second Judicial District Court. I think that we are the best district court in this state. I have no doubt about it, and I know I'm biased. I think that we do an incredible amount of work with less and less resources every year. And it couldn't happen without all of the employees and judicial officers of this court. And I just want to thank all of them for all of their hard work, for sticking with us through the pandemic. And I just want to thank all of them for that. In terms of anything else you might want to know from me, since we're talking about having coffee with the judge, I'm not drinking coffee, I drink tea. I don't drink coffee except for once a week. I have one coffee a week and that's it. Otherwise I drink tea.
All right. Well, that's interesting.
I don't know if it's interesting, but it's a factoid.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I kind of go back and forth between coffee and tea myself. I try to keep it to 1 cup of coffee a day.
Well, yeah, I'm a high-strung person, in case you couldn't tell, and me and coffee don't mix very well.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot, Judge Franchini. I have to say, I enjoyed this conversation with you, and I think our audience will enjoy it as well. So we really appreciate you taking the time to spend with us.
Happy to do it, and thanks for asking me.
Okay. All right.